Matt, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks, Jack. Happy to be here. 8 a.m. my time. I think it's night your time. So we're at opposite ends of the spectrum. But I've had or I'm drinking my coffee and I'm ready to go.
Nice. Yeah, 8:15 in the evening here for me. So yeah, exactly opposite. And I'm not drinking a coffee
Oh,
at this time of night. But no, thank you for joining me,
pleasure.
Matt. For people who don't know who you are, could you give us a bit of an introduction, please?
Yeah, my name is Matt Carano. I'm head of content at Thrive Protocol. I've been with Thrive almost a year. It's crazy how fast it goes. Everything goes fast in crypto, but sometimes it feels super long and sometimes it goes super fast. But whatever. It's almost been a year. I've been in crypto a long time. I first fell in love with Bitcoin in 2013, where a friend of mine showed it to me. I was like, "Man, you got to take a look at this," and didn't quite get it right offhand, but as soon as I did and understood kind of the implications of it, completely like changed the trajectory of my life. And for the last, I don't know, decade plus, I've mostly been working in crypto in various roles, but typically on the marketing side of things. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
That's cool. 2013, pretty much an OG at this point.
Yeah, I don't like to brag. It's not like I put it in my Twitter bio, but yeah, I've been I've been around a long time and seen a lot of stuff. I know you and I were chatting, before this, like last week sometime, and I've seen everything. Like I tell people, no one's been more rugged in crypto than I have. Like I was part my the group or the project that I was working on in 2017. We were part of we got hit by the parody multisig wallet hack. Stole most of our ETH, killed our runway. Just seeing everything, seeing the good, the bad, and the ugly. But it's super inspiring. It's one of the most inspiring spaces to be in. You can find some of the most inspiring people really trying to change the world for the better. So
Yeah, you're
you
right.
take it all, and yeah, happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, you're right. Well, I've got a ton of questions, and we can dive into the good, the bad, and the ugly of it a little
Sounds
bit
good.
later on. Um, could you talk us through your career journey so far?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm a musician by trade. I went to music school. Play a lot of instruments and write and record and release. So I've always been kind of on the content side of things, although I didn't really know that as a job early on. So I have an education degree actually, but I didn't want to teach in a public school. I student taught in a public school. It's not an amazing place to be. Whatever, long hours, low pay, all the administrative stuff, and it seems to have even gotten worse since I was in school so many years ago. But anyway, I eventually found myself really enthused with a project. So the first project that I started working on in crypto was for a Bitcoin ATM company called Lamasu. And the reason why I started working for them is they were scaling up super quickly. It was two brothers. They were living in New Hampshire, which is where I'm from. So we met, we were friends, and like, dude, we got so many. Bitcoin was starting to take off. It was that March to 1,000, I think, that was like the first,
Nice.
kind of the first big move in crypto, where we're like, oh man, this might actually this might take on a little bit. But so they were scaling up, and they added me on, and I'm just, I'm kind of a generalist where I can do a number of things kind of okay. And so I was more on the operations side, but I did some marketing, some sales, whatever. But it wasn't until I started working for I was working on a project called Swarm City, which is one of the earliest ICOs. This was in 2016 or so, late 2016. I was super enthusiastic about the project. It was really geared towards, there was this whole like anti Uber movement across the United States at that time, and so it was a lot of rideshare drivers who were looking for Web3 alternatives, and Swarm City was trying to solve that problem. Basically, a decentralized marketplace where two parties could connect, governed by a smart contract. There was an escrow element to it, and reputation element, whatever. It was Uber without Uber. But I realized that if you could solve that issue for Uber, you can solve it for any type of marketplace, whether it's a retail marketplace or peer to peer, whatever. And so I was like, I kind of instantly understood the scope of this project, and the founders were all Belgian, and so English was a second language, and I'm a decent enough writer, so I just started getting involved and was like, "Hey, listen, let me edit your announcements and et cetera," and started just doing more and more content around it, and they brought me on kind of full time. So I was early enough where I don't consider myself a founder of that project, but I was definitely on like the founding team through the parody multi wallet hack. But it was that time too. I was like, because I like to do my own music and other type of content. I just learned some skills like video skills, etc. And so I just became better at making content in general, and that kind of followed me through the rest of my roles. So I worked at Gitcoin when Gitcoin did the token and DAO launch. I did all the content for that, which is crazy times. I think that was 2020 or 2021. And then I was with another crypto OG company a little bit later on called Status. I was their head of copy, but basically all the content that everything has copies. Sorry, all the content kind of went through me. And then for and now for Thrive, head of content. Now again, it's a startup, and all a lot of these Web3 companies are all startups. So you kind of it's if you're a jack of all trades, if you can like get in there and do different stuff, sales stuff, talk on podcasts, do content, advocate in different arenas. You may be in front of boards, or you may be with builders, or you may be on Twitter or whatever. But if you have kind of a more general skill set, you can kind of find your way. And so even though I'm head of content Thrive, I tend to do a bunch of different stuff. But yeah, that's the career journey. I just you just learn skills as you need to apply them and use them, and then hopefully you become more valuable over time. And yeah, that's it. That's me.
That sounds cool. Sounds cool. Were there any particular challenges that have really surprised you throughout your journey so far? I know that's quite a vague question because there's probably quite a few, but are there any that really spring to mind?
Yeah, I mean, so the challenge for me, and I might be unique to it. Well, I'm sure there's a ton of people in Web3 that are like this, but it still might be like a narrower challenge. Is I have a hard time working for any org that I'm not physically like, or philosophically, not physically, philosophically aligned with. Like that's really hard for me. It's hard for me to just take a paycheck. And you can make a lot of money if you just take a paycheck, or if you just do sort of short-term thinking in Web3. There's a lot of money there. So I think I've left, I think the challenge for me is I've left a lot of money on the table. But really there's just this switch in me that if I'm like not bought in, I just can't do it. So that's a super challenge. But I also hope it's a good thing. Like anybody who's coming into Web3 right now, like I hope that they find an ecosystem or a community that they really buy into, that they really believe in. It's a lot more fulfilling if you do it, even if it means some money is left on the table. But that's been the biggest one, and I think it's more. It was easier. It was easier early on to have that not matter, because Bitcoin was number one, and Bitcoin still in my mind. Like I love Bitcoin. There's some challenges with Bitcoin, but I still love it. So working at Lamasu was that was easy. Like that wasn't a philosophical move whatsoever. But now, because there's so many different projects and blockchain, tens of thousands, millions of I don't even know, so many projects. It's hard to even know where to start. Like if I were just jumping into it's kind of like dating. Like I married before the before the whole like swipe right stuff. So I
Yeah.
just missed that whole thing. But like if I, God forbid, I'd never want that to happen. Of course, my wife's amazing. But if I were ever like a bachelor again, I would not. This would be a completely. I know I sound like an old guy. I'm an old guy. It would be so foreign. But same thing. If I were like looking for jobs in Web3 right now, that would be the challenge for me. It's like what ecosystems do I target? Like I don't want to just take a check. So that would be the hard thing. And I think it gets sort of increasingly harder as there's more blockchains and more projects. But anyway, I think that would be the challenge for me.
Makes sense. This might be quite a challenging question.
Hmm.
If you were going to start now and you were trying to even choose an ecosystem, where would you even go to do that? Say if someone's
Yeah.
listening and thinking, where do I start? They like the idea of Web3. To be honest, I guess the place to start is make sure you really are passionate about the technology. You are passionate and interested in crypto, blockchain, decentralization. Like if you're interested in the ethos of the space, great. If you're not, it's probably quite a difficult industry to break into. But say if you tick that box and that sounds great, where do you go to even find ecosystems?
Yeah, that's a great question because, like, first of all, I think your suggestion that you have to really know that you're passionate about is a really good one. Because I like interview people. I just interviewed someone last week, and every time I do, I ask them what brought you to Web3, and like what I'm looking for is I'm passionate about the technology because I think it will. It's like the best coordination tool on the planet, and it will be amazing for the human race if crypto is mass adopted. Like we'll have a fairer a uh, just a better world. So that's the things that I'm looking but I'm actually shocked when people actually answer me like I'm in for the money. And it's like, okay, but that's fine. Like do that. But then it is going to be hard because because projects are really they tend to be very community minded. It's like you know, it's part of how a I mean, if you just think about the incentives of what Web3 is, it's like the token and smart contracts align incentives between traditionally adversarial parties, right? It's the user, the team that's creating the thing, and like the investor. And but we're all aligned with this token now, so it just kind of lends itself to being more of a community becomes super important. And so yeah, so you have to find so make sure you're passionate, but then you have to know like what moves you about it and then find right the appropriate community for that. I think it's hard. I think it's like but you can make it easy, like easier if you're like, oh well, I love the idea of DeFi and banking the unbanked and like all that stuff. Well, then that kind of narrows it down. Or if you're like, I love this idea. For me, the one that super moves me, and we have not solved this problem yet, is the problem that Swarm City was trying to solve, which is decentralized marketplaces. Like I want decentralized marketplaces, and then I want crypto states. And like that's the order of things. Well, first it's privacy, which will lead us to being able to have have decentralized marketplaces and not have them shut down, and then eventually crypto states. That's what I want. So but if it's marketplaces, like find that. Or if it's if it's social, then like Farcaster and that type of stuff. There's tons of apps that are working in that ecosystem. It's like kind of define the thing that you love about it, and let that guide you. Yeah, but it is hard because there's so many projects. And also, like, determine what blockchain maybe. Are you a Ethereum person? Are you a Solana person? Are you a Bitcoin person? There's actually some great projects building around Bitcoin right now. I can't tell you which one it is, but there's one that's partnering with Thrive that we're going to announce here pretty soon. I
Cool.
wish I could give you the alpha, but I just can't. But it's awesome. Like I love it. It's a ecosystem building with Bitcoin, like bringing Web3 to Bitcoin. It's so awesome. It's like finally this is happening on Bitcoin. If you love Bitcoin, then there's an ecosystem there for you too. So yeah, I don't know. It is a hard. It's hard, but start with your passions. Figure out the chain. Figure out the vertical that super moves you, and then target ecosystems from there.
Yeah, nice. Good advice. I think really working out the types of problems that you want to solve, I think is super key.
Yeah.
Um, Not just from a chain perspective, but also from, as you said, like what are the issues that I really want to solve? Is it tokenization? Is it decentralized marketplaces? Is it DeFi? Is it actually just really want to build the infra that keeps the space running? Like, what is it, and what are the challenges that you want to solve? I think a lot of the time you might even have to try and learn about a lot of stuff to really understand how these things work before you might understand what problems you really want to solve. So maybe the place to start is try and give yourself the best like self-education possible and
Yeah.
understand. I'll try and you don't have to understand everything on like a super deep technical level, but just high level. What does everything do? How does it all work? What impact is it going to have? And then I think you can really start to work out, well, where do I want to be?
Yeah, that's right. And the amazing thing about this time is now we have AI, which can really help us
Yeah.
research this stuff. I mean, even before AI, but like YouTube was a great place. It's like, oh, I'm interested in this problem in Web3 or in crypto or whatever, and then you just search that out, and you can find tutorials about it. Oh, I want to be a dev. Well, there's so many tracks that if you're a tech, if you're like tech forward type of person, you're a developer. There's so many educational tracks now. There's
Mm.
speedrun ETH. There's like even if you just go to ethereum.org, there's a bunch of stuff there all over. I've seen tons of YouTube channels that educate developers. Like there's a lot of information if you're interested in that. And then with AI to help you research, you can just put in the criteria and say, I am this type of person. I like these
Yeah,
things. This is
it's
my
true.
philosophical makeup. What are some great ecosystems that I should look into? And AI will help you there.
Yeah, I like that. I hadn't thought of that, to be honest. Like, just
Oh yeah.
tell it the type of person that you are and what you like and what you enjoy, and then yeah, let it suggest some stuff. That's a good, yeah, that's a good idea.
I partner with AI. Like I make AI my friend. Like it knows my name. It gives itself a name. Like we just have nice little conversations. I make it my buddy, and it seems to
Is that
produce pretty
is that in
good.
case the AI takes over in the future and you've been nice to it the entire time?
It's a little bit of that for sure. But I found, I mean, I've seen there's some great people. Like I don't know if you're familiar with Brian Romley, who's like I follow him on Twitter, but
No.
he's like an early AI guy. Like he's been working with AI and trying to teach machines for a long time. Super just a polymath, like a very smart guy. And he showed data that if you befriend the AI, like if you're nice to the AI and you encourage the AI and you tell the AI, look, this is the perfect type of task for you to do. Like if you encourage it, or if you give it a backstory, it performs better for you. So I make it my friend.
Interesting. Interesting. I'm gonna try that. I'll try that next time.
It's funny because I was using AI. Sorry to tangent, but I was using AI with I can't remember. It was someone that I work with, and so they saw how I chat with the AI, and they're like, "What the are you doing? Like, what is this weird conversational thing? You have a name for it?" It was very funny. I guess not everybody does that.
I like it though. I'm gonna give it a go. I'll let you know if it
Okay,
changes the outcome.
good.
Um, but could you give us a crash course on how to be a successful marketer, how to be a successful creator of content in Web3 specifically? Like if someone's starting out and they're thinking that sounds really cool, sounds like something I'd really want to do, um, how do you do it? Talk us through it.
Yeah, the amazing thing about Web3 is it's any personality type. You can be super earnest, you can be a shit talker, and it all can work depending on the brand you're working for, depending on who you are as a person. It's like you can just it doesn't it's not stodgy. It's like Thrive is super earnest, which is great in my mind because I do like a lot the earnest side of things best. I mean, I make parody videos and like funny stuff. I do like to make funny things. But anyway, I do love that we're earnest because kind of what you see is what you get, and it works. Or you can make ridiculous. I make ridiculous parody videos where I'll take popular music, I'll re-record the audio with with different lyrics and just ridiculous. Like you can see my Kaido. We just won the the Kaido pre TGE vote last week, and some of the campaigns around that were just ridiculous. Actually, so ridiculous that's my CEO is like, I don't know, Matt. I don't know that we can do it, but well, I think everybody has their own unique talents. So one is you have to lean into that. Like I love doing podcasts like this one, doing spaces, being live. I've just had a lot of reps on air, so I really like doing that, and I feel like it's a good use of my time because if I'm in the right place, I can talk to a lot of builders, which is who we're trying to attract and thrive. I
Yeah,
love doing that. That's a skill set I like to evangelize that I have. So that part of it is like that's my niche. So I go that route. Or I like making ridiculous funny videos. So that's my route. So you have to really know what your skill set is and what you love to do. That's the first thing. And then it's a lot of data. And this is a lot of people in crypto don't like to think of it in this way, but it is. We can test and see what works, see what doesn't work in many different ways. Whether it's ads campaigns, you do any sort of, if you did Twitter ads or Google ads or whatever, or any sort of outreach, you can test all that. Email outreach, Telegram outreach, you can test all that. And it's a pain because if you don't like looking at spreads, start to like spreadsheets because they become a part of your life. But it's the only real way to know if you're growing well. Like it's so easy in Web3 to pay a bunch of KOLs to get their followers to follow you, but they're not good. Like they're all bots, or they're all like very very low quality accounts, not low quality people, but low quality accounts. It doesn't work. I'm going to tangent again. There is a Web3 KOL firm that I'm familiar with that they were bragging. They were bragging about how much impact they had to the token, and if they sent a graph about it, like how much the token went up whenever they sicked their KOLs on the world, and it did. But then what did it do right after that? Tanked. And then
Yeah.
if you watched it over, then they did these 3 campaigns, and each campaign had a lesser high and a lesser high. So the whole graph was a down down to the right, and you're like, you're bragging about that? That's crazy. Um, the KOL stuff is it's just not like it's hard to find like real hype that way.
Mm.
So being authentic and looking at a bunch of numbers to see what resonates with your community is the way to go. So I guess to round it out, it's know what you love to do, what your strengths are, and then get very comfortable in testing, because it's the only way to know whether you're resonating with your audience. You also have to be very clear about who your audience is. At Thrive, it's builders. We fund builders. That's it. Top ecosystems give us money, and we have to go out and find great projects to fund who will deploy and scale in their ecosystems. It's a great job because we get to give people money all day. That's amazing. But you have to know who you're talking to. You have to figure out
Yeah.
where the builders are, and for us, we have to figure out where the builders are and deliver the message. So you have to know who your audience is, where they are, and create the content or create the message specifically for them where they live, and then test.
I like that. Great advice. Thanks for talking us through it.
You're welcome.
Do
Sorry, I'm
you?
long winded around it. There's just so much.
No, it's good. More detail, the better. I'm absolutely okay with detail. It's all good.
Okay.
Um, you mentioned there around some question marks on KOLs. I think they played obviously a big part in the industry over the last 10 years. Do you think the KOL, we'll call it the KOL craze, I guess? Do you think that will start to come to an end at some point over the next couple of years if they're not necessarily working as well as they could?
Yeah, so I think that there are great advocates who have who've built a great audience, like a real great audience, and if they're passionate about your project, can be extremely helpful if they're on your side. I think there is real. It's just like anything. There's a certain percentage that's real and great and amazing, who've done great work, who have a lot of credibility, just like anything else. And then there are same thing on the project side in Web3. There's some great projects out there. There's also some crappy projects. But I think what I've really been awakened to is a few things in crypto. So one of the shocking things that I realized my CEO sent me this, and it was shocked to me last weekend, was that there are only 315 revenue positive projects in all of crypto. That's it. It's all on
Interesting.
chain. Like that's
315.
it. That's it. Yeah. So most people rely on tokenization.
Wow.
So they tokenize. That gives them a treasury, but that doesn't mean that they're revenue positive. A lot of times they're mostly they're revenue negative. Their treasury is going the other way. So that's it. That is crazy. So that was one of the things that I realized. So and then two, if you just look at the nature of this bull market and what's happened, you've had all these tokens launched, a lot of meme coins, and I have no problem with meme coins. Like there's some legit great opportunities there. Uh, every set, like I'm positive, just like in music, there's something great in every single style of music. Even country,
Yeah.
there's some great music in country. Same thing with the verticals in crypto. There's plenty of great projects in every single vertical, but a ton of launched and tanked. And so I wonder like how much retail there really is. And I also wonder if people are just real, like I think this cycle, people are just awakened to the fact that it's only that a lot of projects that launch, there are a good amount of projects that launch that aren't actually creating impact or value. And if that happens, the token's going to just be crushed. It's just going to tank. And so, and I think the KOL I don't want to. I'm not blaming all of them. As I said, there's great KOLs too, but a lot
Mm.
of them have just swarmed retail into a hype cycle. They got crushed, and they're not being replenished. Like those folks aren't coming back in. I really think we're at this crux point in crypto where if we want to attract, by retail, I just mean the consumer, the user, people who are using these amazing apps and this amazing technology. If we want to attract them, we have to have real value there, which is part of Thrive's mission is we are looking for impactful builders to fund. That's the criteria. We're not going to give funding to projects that don't create impact, and so because we think that crypto won't grow, it's not gonna grow if we do the same things over and over, where tons of funding going to very short term thinking to projects that don't create value that just tank. And yeah, KOLs have really fed into that because it makes sense. It's just they pump the token, they make some money, and that's fine. But I think that's drying up. I don't think their consumers coming back in. They're too wary at this point, and it's just not as effective anymore. That's what I think.
Fair enough. That makes sense. I think it's tricky as well, isn't it? Especially when you've got uh, big exchanges who ask for, right, you need to have a minimum of this many followers on Twitter, for example, for us to even consider listing you
Right.
on the exchange. Um, I think somewhere I was reading there's something. Some of the exchanges ask for like 300k followers and like this kind of stuff on Twitter and things. You can see why projects would turn to KOLs and KOL agencies when they would say, "We can guarantee you X number of followers." They don't necessarily care if they're like legit accounts, as you said. Like a lot of them might be bots and this kind of stuff. But if they're trying to hit that criteria and it's going to make or break the project if they can get listed on these exchanges, well, so what do? You kind of your hands are tied at that point. You have to do it, right? There's no other. I mean, you can. I mean, organically, you probably can get to that point eventually, but it's
Takes
not going to
time.
be as quick as if you get tons of KOLs on board and you're thinking, right, we have to launch because we're in the middle of a bull market and we need to launch now because otherwise we'll miss it, and then we've got to wait 2 years. Um, you can see why.
Absolutely. And I think exchanges are going to have to change because if market makers are there, if supporting a token, or exchanges are going to support a token, and those are the requirements, instead of is this an impactful project, they're going to learn because the token's going to tank. I would imagine they would. Maybe that's next cycle learning for these exchanges. I don't know, but yeah, I agree. It is visual. It's a visual thing where for them, where you do have to hit these metrics that don't really show value. Like it's really hard, most of the top projects that have done that. Like if you look at their engagement, they might be hundreds of thousands of account or a million account. I mean, they did it probably through KOLs. They probably have a lot of bots and spam followers. You can see it in the engagement that, oh no, this looks like engagement. You've been, if you're around or long, you kind of know what engagement should look like at different tiers. Like what does the 10,000 follower tier look like in terms of engagement? What's 100,000 look like? A million? And you just kind of eyeball test. But most of them did it or do it, and I totally understand. I understand why, but it's not real, and that's what crypto needs to change. It's like impactful and real. That's what it needs to be about.
Yeah, fair enough. So I think a lot of people would look at your role as being pretty cool. I can imagine it's pretty fun. Head of content at a bunch of different projects now. Obviously, at the moment you're at Thrive, and um, I think a lot of people would look at that and think, you know what, I'd love to be in that position. That sounds great. Can you talk us through a day in the life? Like, what do you actually do as a head of content at Thrive? Like, what do you deliver on a daily basis? Like, what is it that you do? I know the short answer is it varies probably, but
It
could you
does.
just give us a snapshot?
Yeah, as I talked about before, I'm kind of a generalist, so I'm in the middle of a lot of things right now. But from the content side, we've got this really great campaign that we're running right now. I mentioned that Thrive partners with top ecosystems like Polygon and Arbitrum and ApeCoin and Hedera and Zion and a bunch, and they allocate part of their treasury to us. And then we in turn go find and fund impactful builders to go and deploy in their ecosystem. So we I'll just give you a little bit of the backstory. Like in general, we were very good in the past about marketing our initiatives with our partners, with like Polygon, whatever, and not so good about marketing Thrive as its own brand. We were just not good at that. And so we changed because right now, you and I were talking about this before the podcast, but like we have so much funding committed to us right now that that we have to change our approach and how we go and attract the builders. It used to be that we would launch a campaign like Thrive. It's like Thrive Polygon. We're launching Thrive Polygon. Here's the funding. Here are the verticals that we're funding. We would do a launch space. We would do a call for applicants. We'd do that over a 2-week span. We'd get in a bunch of applications. We'd sort through it over the course of the next week or so. We'd figure out which projects we were going to fund, and then they would hit milestones, and we would go. We can't do that anymore because of the amount of funding we have to deploy, that we have to always be attracting builders, always. So our postures change. So anyway, we came up with this really cool campaign because we want to be known as we are, like, we're the largest builder funding protocol in all of crypto. Like, we want to be known as that. And I don't know that the zeitgeist really knows that. So we came up with this campaign called Build Real, where we showcase some of the impactful projects that have come through Thrive, or that are still being funded through Thrive initiatives. And we do, and so we'll pick 4 or 5 of them every week, and we'll write an article about them. We'll make some great like impact Twitter designs, and you can check at Thrive Protocol on Twitter. You can kind of see all the whole Build Real campaign. Zach, who's a writer at Thrive, phenomenal writer at Thrive, wrote a manifesto. It's currently pinned to our profile on Thrive. It'll pump you up if you read it. And then we do a live demo competition show for them. We just did it yesterday morning, Thursday, as we're speaking, where all the projects get together in this live stream and they demo their product in this competition against each other, and whoever wins 50,000 Thrive points. It's just kind of a fun, live type of thing. And then from that, and so people watch it live, and then there's a vote. There's a vote during it on who wins. It's just this fun little initiative. And then after that, we cut out the demos and post those on socials as well. So it's this whole like campaign where we're featuring the to the audience, like the amazing to like our prospective audience, the audience that we want to attract, these builders, with successful builders in our ecosystem in kind of a fun way. So I'll help shepherd that through. It's a weekly thing. So every week we need to get interviews so that we can write the articles and then prep for the show and like all this. And I'll produce that show. I don't host that show, but I produce it. So that's like a whole process that I work on a day-to-day basis. I also talk on spaces. Like, I'll space hop a bit, usually for a while, for like January, February. I did probably like 40 spaces in that span of time, but it's less now. But I'll go out and evangelize for Thrive, either on great podcasts like yours, or on spaces or live streams or whatever. Just trying to get in front of different groups to let people know that Thrive is a place for builders. We need builders. Come to Thrive. Sometimes I'll write, sometimes I'll do website copy, because every single one of our deployments, our partnerships, our initiatives have its own website. And so like I'll work on that. It's just, if you are someone like me and you can write a little bit and you can do a little video work and you can talk a little bit, whatever, then you could do any of those things sort of on a daily basis. Or I'll make a ridiculous video. I do like, voiceover work to these ridiculous videos, or it's tough to describe them without someone seeing them, but you could find them on our Twitter account. But all of that I'll work on. And then just if there's any sort of bigger projects, I'm on the leadership team. So if there's another like big rock that we're trying to push forward, I'll work on those. But it varies. It really does. You just you have to sort of ground yourself in what are the big rocks that we're trying to move. What are the overall campaigns that we're trying to move forward? And then try to be the most impactful you can be pushing those forward.
Nice. And this might be quite a hard question.
Mm.
Where do you go to learn all of those things? Is it just skills you've picked up throughout your career and they've just happens to be the perfect mix of skills and experience that's means that you can do really well in this role? Or have you consciously gone, right, so I need to learn video editing, I need to learn writing, I need to learn how to speak, I need to learn all these different things? Or was it just a happy accident that it just all came together?
Yeah, I mean, for me, what is it? Is it necessity is the mother of all invention? Is that the phrase? I think
That's
that's
just,
right.
yeah, I think that's the saying. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it was for me. It's I needed to do a thing. I didn't know it. Like I didn't want to. I couldn't pay anybody to do it, or couldn't partner with anybody to do it. So then I learned it. And it's I'm kind of the worst at this too because I didn't learn audio recording and production till quite later on. Like I should have started doing that right as I was starting and writing and then performing when I was in my early 20s. Well, I've been playing music since I was a young child, but when I sort of recognized, oh, I love writing songs and performing them, I should have learned audio production like right then, and I didn't. I procrastinated probably a decade. I procrastinated. I was like, no, I don't want to be on that side of the. I was obstinate about it until I was like, oh, fine. And then I learned to do it. Same thing with video production. It's like I don't really want to do the the video work, but then it's like, okay, but should I pay someone for it or whatever. So then you just kind of learn it. I think actually folks who are younger and getting into the job force right now have it are just more innately like attracted to doing that type of stuff if they're at all interested in making content. Because if you see like the successful content folks right now, they're making videos, they're talking on podcasts, they're doing kind of all that stuff. Maybe not. I like to think that I do that I audio production very well. Like I'm very skilled at that. So maybe not at the level that I think I'm at there, but still at a level enough where it works. So a little bit of audio production, a little bit of video production. And then just what happens, I think, is it opens doors and you just decide what door you want to walk through. So I'm someone who likes to keep like the options there. And so then if I needed to focus on doing a lot more video work right now, I could, and I would spin up. Like I learned how to animate and all sorts of ridiculous
Okay.
things. If I need to push on that based on the type of campaign that's going out or then I would focus on that and get a little bit better as I went. But I do think that people now are just more inclined to being able to do that type of work. Plus, with AI, now all the tools are a lot crazier. I use AI infused video production, like Descript does things that I would take forever to like. It can cut out my background if I do a video. So I'll sit right here sometimes and I'll do a kind of a first person video announcing something. And with one click of the button, Descript will remove my background, and then I just have a black background behind me. And it's like that would have taken me 7 years ago. Would have taken me forever to cut myself out of that thing. But now it's just a click of the
Yeah.
button. Same thing. You can get to. I'm very picky with audio, but you can get to really pretty decent audio with a click of the button in some of these tools too. So it does make it a lot easier. But yeah, I would just say it's kind of I like to keep my paths open and the options open, and then I kind of know what my skill sets are, what I like to create content. So how can I deliver that in different ways? And that just sort of brought me down that path. I do really think people are better suited to it now, though. I really think that if they're content production, they're doing these things already. It was a little. I feel like it was harder for me because the tools didn't exist like they do now. But
Yeah.
that's what I would do. Whatever necessity comes up, you just lean into it.
Fair enough. No, I think that's good advice. Um, I know you briefly touched on Thrive.
Yeah.
Well, talked us through quite a bit of Thrive, I guess. But could you give us a bit more of a detailed look into what Thrive is, what you guys do? Could you just explain it again for people listening?
Yeah, of course. So Thrive is fueling future crypto GDP. That's ultimately what we're all about. And how that works is I mentioned this before, but large ecosystems partner with us. And I mentioned some of them before: Polygon, Arbitrum, Hedera, Bazion, a bunch of them. and they literally allocate part of their treasury to us. And these allocations are millions to tens of millions. And then we take that and then we go and we find great builders. We fund them to launch and scale in their ecosystem. And why that's super important for these ecosystems is it's the only way they'll grow is if we can efficiently allocate their treasury, the lifeblood of their ecosystem. We can efficiently allocate that to impactful people and projects. That's the only way. Like if they're spending their treasury on things that aren't creating return on investment, their community will shrink. If they can, they get to fund ROI positive things. Their community, their ecosystem will grow. That's really the calculus. And why they choose Thrive instead of doing this themselves is because it's super hard to make sure that you're funding impactful things at scale. It really is. And we're talking, like I mentioned before, we're talking millions of dollars. Like if you are an ecosystem and you're like, okay, well, we want to deploy $100,000, and it's a lot of money, but like $100,000, they could do that. One person on the board or a delegate or something could spin up some sort of work stream, could interview 10 projects or something, pick one or two and do that. But if you're talking about millions of dollars, like in a quarter, that's like impossible to do. Why we can do it is everything that gets submitted through Thrive, and we'll do community engagement stuff too. Some ecosystems want us to do that, and I'll tell you like kind of how some folks can compare us to other projects. But whether it's community engagement stuff or it's funding for projects like grants style funding, it doesn't matter. Everything that goes through Thrive gets submitted has to prove that they've created impact. So if they're a project and they're submitting a milestone, a lot of times our milestones are they're kind of, they follow the same pattern. Like milestone one would be, like if it was through Thrive Polygon, it would be deploy on Polygon would be your first milestone. They have to prove that they did that. They have to submit their milestone. It goes to our decentralized reviewer network. We call them guardians. And a consensus of them have to say, yep, they proved that they did it. Here's the on-chain data. Thumbs up, funding gets released. If they didn't prove that they did it, thumbs down, funding doesn't get released. And this is true of everything. It's like, so we'll do a community engagement stuff. Our first season with Hedera was like this, where Hedera's got some great apps. And they're like, we want more people to use these great apps. Hedera's like, Hedera is such a cool ecosystem. It's very professional. The technology is like super quick. It's really cool. And there's a lot of great apps there. So Thrive Hedera season one was like, we want to encourage more people to use these apps because we think if they do, they're going to love it and they'll love Hedera. So we would, through Thrive, we would reward people for going in, I don't know, minting an NFT or inscribing something to the blockchain or whatever the app is. Excuse me, we would reward them with HBAR. Even that, they have to submit proof that they did it. Goes to our reviewer network. They look at it. Yep, they did what they said they were going to do. It created the impact they said they were going to. Funds get released. Nope, funds don't get released. So that way, all these ecosystems know any funding they put through Thrive is going to go to something that has created impact, positive ROI. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't, we're not going to spend your treasury funds. That's the innovation with Thrive. No other ecosystem, nothing else in crypto does this. And it's so important because there are plenty of organizations. So we'll be compared to organizations that do grants. We'll be compared to organizations that do like questing platforms. We can do either of those things, but the main difference is they're all botted, spammed. They can't look and see at scale whether or not the funding that's going through them is actually creating impact. We can because of our decentralized reviewer network. So that's really the difference in Thrive and why we are saying we're fueling future crypto GDP, because there's a motorcycle going by, but the overall thought is like, if we can make sure that funds, treasury funds from the ecosystems that we partner with are creating ROI, positive ROI for their ecosystems will grow. And if we can do that over enough of a span, crypto will grow. And it'll grow the right way, funding impactful projects, not spam, not fraud, not Sybil attacks. No, impactful projects funding so that we can make crypto grow. So anyway, that's a bit about Thrive. We solve this problem on two ends too. We solve it for the builders as well. We know how hard it is for impactful projects to get funding in Web3. It's like We were talking about this before about how do you know where to start in Web3 if you're trying to onboard, you're trying to have a job in Web3. It's like, okay, what ecosystem do I go to? The builders have the same problem. What ecosystems do I align with? And then what, how do they do their funding? Is it a work stream? Is it a couple delegates? Do I have to do a forum post? Do I have to do a snapshot vote? Do I have to cozy up to somebody? Like, what is the process? Whereas at Thrive, you come to Thrive, come into our ecosystem, and we start sending you funding opportunities based on where you are at the life cycle of your project. So you could be a startup, that's okay, as long as you have to have some things in place. You got to have a good team in place. You got to have a go-to-market plan or a business plan in place. It has to be some things, but you can be a startup. There are ecosystems that want to fund startups, like Metis. We funded 40 something startups in our last season of Metis. Um,
Nice.
all the way to you've been, you've been launched for a long time. You have a lot of traction. We do funding for projects that have millions in TVL or hundreds of thousands of transaction volume or daily active users or whatever. So wherever you are, pretty much in the life cycle of your project, probably there is an ecosystem that wants to fund you. Come to Thrive, and we'll show you the opportunities from our partners. Which, by the way, keeps getting more and more. Like our first year, we had 1 million in funding allocated to us. Second year, 12 million. Third year, 70 million, and it's going up. We expect it'll be hundreds of millions, outside shot at a billion maybe this year. It'll be a lot of funding. So a lot of opportunities for builders. Come to Thrive so we can get you funded.
Sounds amazing. Could you talk us through the ideal builder or the ideal stage? Do you have that, or you mentioned there that projects need to have some things in place. I guess you mentioned that it could be much larger projects, it could be much smaller ones. I guess the size or stage of project maybe doesn't matter by the sound of it, but just you mentioned there needs to be some things in place. Could you talk us through maybe what those pillars need to be?
Yeah, for sure. So the cool thing is, like, all the ecosystems that we partner with are vastly different. Like ApeCoin is vastly different than Hedera. Polygon's different than Arbitrum. They're all different. And they all want different things. Like they all want different verticals. They all their communities are interested in different things, or maybe they don't have a specific vertical. So whenever we partner with an ecosystem, we create a board, like the Thrive Polygon board, the Thrive Hedera board, whatever, and you get the naming convention, and it's members of their ecosystem and our ecosystem, and then we work this out together. It's like, okay, who are we trying to target? Who will what type of projects will greatly impact your ecosystem? And I mentioned Metis because for Metis, they're like, we want to onboard a bunch of startups so that that will grow with Metis, and maybe we'll find the next unicorn, we'll find the next killer app, we'll get some great builders on here doing amazing stuff. Sorry if you hear the lawnmower, but I hear a lawnmower in my background. I don't know if you're catching that.
Just not really. It's
Okay,
yeah, it's
good.
fine.
It's like super loud. I'm like, what's going on out there? Usually they mow on Mondays. Okay, so it's my neighbor. My neighbor he's awesome. He's the best neighbor ever, and he does like lawns for the whole neighborhood. He's great. This is like his retirement job to mow. But
Nice.
anyway, so Metis wanted to fund a bunch of startups, and then but there are other ecosystems who are like, no, we have no RWA. Let's go find some of the great projects that have a lot of traction ROI and just RWA and just bring them over to our ecosystem. Um, so right, so it could be any part of the life cycle. I would say though, it has to be a legit project. Like there are projects who have applied through Thrive that definitely they're just like fishing for whatever, but they can show no impact. They don't have a team in place. They've got no website. They've got no business plan or whatever. Our reviewer network, our guardians, they're going to look at it and they're going to be like, this is not legitimate. And they're going to just pass on it right away before it ever gets to like the right ecosystem lead from our team, who would then sort of approve it, or with the board approve it for funding. They'll just like, no one will even see it. So if you're going to apply for Thrive, it's got to be a legit project. If you're a startup, absolutely team in place, have a business plan, make your application so easy to read and show like your LinkedIn team on LinkedIn, show their competency. You could show like, oh, this person, we're doing this type of vertical, which means we need this type of expertise. Here's our team member that has this expertise. Make it super easy for our reviewers so they don't have to dig. Some of them will dig, but so they don't have to dig and like search You want to make it so easy for them to approve you, to get you to the next level. But yeah, legitimately, there's a lot of on-chain projects being requested right now, but in the past, we have funded media groups. We have funded communities. Like SheFi is a good example of that. SheFi is onboarding women into crypto.
Yeah.
Um, it just sort of depends on the ecosystem what they want to fund. So it could be literally, any type of project that has to do with crypto, as long as it's legitimate. It's easier if you do have some traction. If you've deployed and you do have some traction, it's easier to get through. But startup to, later on in the life cycle, it really could be any vertical at all, which is amazing. And that's just
Yeah.
legitimately what the different ecosystems want. They're all different places in their life cycle too.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So they need to have a team in place. Do they need to have launched something yet? Or would you fund just on an idea, for example, an idea in a business plan? We want to solve this problem, but we have nothing. We haven't deployed anything. We haven't written a line of code. We haven't built anything yet.
Yeah, so we grade projects that come through Thrive. We use metals to grade, so bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and it's based on the type of impact that they can show. So impact, what we're describing with impact is on chain. So it's DV, daily active users, it's TVL, it's transaction volume, it's a number of different things. Although we do have an innovation bucket too, which is kind of a catch-all if you're doing something like neat and new. There's plenty. I've seen plenty of those. Those are actually the fun ones to review. Um, and so if you are on chain, you've already launched, you would have some sort of metrics associated with your project. Well, then most likely you're like silver or above, depending on how much. And we tier it. You can see in the application, we sort of tier. Over this would be this level. Over this would, and what that does is it actually opens the teams up to larger funding amounts. Like you're not going to get as a startup 100,000 in funding. It's not going to happen. But you could get 25,000. So if it's a good idea hasn't launched yet, has a business plan, has a team in place, has a good case, you can get funded even if you haven't deployed yet. And usually that first milestone would be deploy on whatever chain, whatever ecosystem the funding is coming from. So yeah, absolutely could absolutely be a startup. But
Nice.
you should have some things in place. Like you got to be real, or you'll just never get through. You have to be legit.
That's cool. Sounds like you guys are solving, yeah, a lot of problems in the space. I mean, I know so many founders and builders, and funding is a massive issue, right? Like just getting
It is.
access to funding is huge. I mean, most of the space is ran on, as you said, there's only 315, did you say,
Yeah,
projects that are revenue positive. So that means
crazy.
the other, I don't know, 20, 30, 40,000, however many projects there are in the industry now, that leaves a big proportion that rely on funding.
True.
Um,
Yeah,
so yeah,
and we
it's
want to get them.
good.
We want to get them to the place. Like if you're funded through Thrive, what ends up happening is you have milestones that will help you grow and scale. So the first one might be to deploy, but then the second milestone might be show some movement in whatever impact metric that makes sense for your project, whatever that is. But like, let's get to this next place, and then with the next round of funding, okay, let's get to this place. So we are trying to our whole goal is to create impact for the ecosystems that we partner with, so we are supporting these builders to get to those levels as well, revenue positive as well. That's the objective. um, yeah, because it's the only way to grow crypto. Everything else is smoke and mirrors. If we don't actually increase crypto GDP, we're not growing as an ecosystem, and it'll stagnate. And we want crypto to grow because, I mean, I don't want to speak for everybody on my team, but my founder for sure, and everybody I talk to feels the same way. Like we want a crypto future, and this is the only way. It's building real stuff, making sure that impactful projects are the ones that are getting funding and not smoke and mirrors. So, and we are super invested in making sure that our builders are successful. Like it's the only way that we're successful. It's the only way that crypto's successful. It's the way it works. So, yeah, if you're a builder in crypto, come to Thrive or message me directly. Whatever, come to Thrive, and I'll onboard you, and we'll onboard you and get you the options that make the most sense for your project. The cool thing is too, once you're in the Thrive ecosystem, we have new partners come on. We have new seasons that start sort of all the time. So if the type of funding that's available today doesn't work for your particular project, we'll continue to send you funding opportunities as they come up. And so maybe not today, but maybe like 2 weeks from now or a month from now, it might be like, oh yeah, that's the one. This is great. So come to Thrive and get funded. If you're an impactful builder, we want you as part of our community.
Amazing. Sounds like a great mission. Um, Matt, I think you probably briefly touched on a few different things over the last 55 minutes or so. What's something you would really want people to know about the industry? You mentioned the growing crypto. I think we need to try and bring more people into the industry, not just builders, but people who are going to work with these builders to help to scale and grow these projects, right? So, are there any is there anything you think is really important for people to be aware of before actually joining the industry itself?
I mean, it's tough because I'm a crypto zealot. Like I love crypto very much, but I'm also,
Yeah,
but from this vantage point, I can be very critical of it too. There's a lot of hype and a lot of things that don't really create much value. Like crypto does a great job at um at at verifying that something happened, like the validity of a transaction. Like we've got consensus mechanisms and we've got blockchain, so we can see that something happened, that it was true. But we do a very bad job, until Thrive, I would say, about verifying that something actually created value. And so there's so much there's so much that's hype and so much that's not creating long-term value. I actually think that that's the majority of crypto right now. It's sad to say, but like if I want to be true about it, I would say it's under this. But imagine if 50% of crypto right now is just hype, is just when moon, is just it's just pumping a token only to dump. It's
yeah,
probably less than it's probably more than 50% is that. It's probably, I would imagine a small fraction of crypto is actually like legitimate. We talked 315 projects revenue positive. So what does that tell you? So, you know, we have to change that paradigm. Like that has to change. We have to stop doing that, stop funding things that don't create impact, or crypto won't grow. It'll just become, um, it'll become a ghost town. So, people coming into crypto, I would just hope that you're in because you're super passionate about changing the world for the better. And the money's great too, and on all that, but like be in it because you want a crypto future, and plug into a community that's actually doing that. That's actually creating technology that is going to move us forward. That's going to help human liberty long term, human prosperity long term. That's what you should have when you come in, and then just be very careful because even the longest, I almost got like I almost get caught. Don't click on Calendly links from people that you don't know from a Twitter account because they could potentially take over your Twitter account that way. It's crazy how good the fraud and the spammers are. So you have to be really on guard too. Like I don't do DMs in Discord anymore because people have impersonated our team members, impersonated
wow.
me, and like I just don't do it. Just be very careful when you come in. But also, be in crypto because you're an optimist, because you actually think that the trajectory of humanity is positive and that we're going to have positive outcomes. Know that this is a technology that can lead us there. So, um, yeah, I have to be on guard, but like it's also amazing to think about what we can accomplish. Yeah, I don't know. I hope that helps. It feels slightly depressing, but also optimistic at the same time. I don't know. Just be real about it.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's useful for people to understand that you do have to be on your guard because those
Yeah,
types of scams they don't necessarily happen in Web two.
not the same way. Yeah, it's crazy.
Not as much. There are phishing scams. Don't get me wrong. There are
Yeah,
phishing scams. People send phishing links and all this kind of stuff. Of course they do. But um, in Web three, they can disguise them very well. And it seems, I feel like everyone, even though everyone has their maybe online persona or this kind of thing in crypto, right? Everyone has their Twitter accounts and this kind of
yeah,
thing. a lot of people are fairly anonymous, but at the same time, you can still reach most people. You can either find them on Telegram, on Discord, in communities that they're a part of, because communities are all open. You can join whichever community you want. You can find who's a member of the group, and you can message a bunch of people. And
Yeah,
yeah, it's everyone's accessible. Whether or not they want to come back to you or not, it's a different story. But you can engage everyone if you
sure.
try. I don't know if you do the same thing as me, but I have. It's free. I just use the NordVPN link checker. Do you use that?
No, I don't. I should look into it. I use a couple other VPNs, but no, tell us about this one.
So it's just on. It's just Nord, like the security guys. They just have a free link checker, so you can just copy and paste the link into their link checker. It will scan it for any malicious activity before you click on it. Um, don't know if it works 100% of the time. So no one sue me for saying go and use this if it doesn't work.
Oops.
But full disclaimer. But yeah, I just copy and paste any link from anyone.
Huh.
Before I click on it, I just copy and paste it into that free link checker, and it just says either yes or no, like this is fine, this is not. So I use that, which is
I'm gonna
useful.
check that out. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. I wonder
yeah,
if
it's useful.
yeah, I'll use Proton VPN. I'll use PIA, like a couple of them. I wonder if those have them, but if not, I'll use Nord.
Yeah, they should do. Look, I just use the Nord one because I don't have to pay for it.
Well, that's good.
It's free.
Yeah.
All right, cool. No, that's good advice. So say if someone goes, right, I know what I want to do. I know the challenges I want to solve, as we spoke about at the start of the podcast. I know the job I want to do. I know the value that I can add. How do I get my first job? What steps, if you were to start a job now, and at the start of the podcast, you mentioned that you just started to add value. You started writing for projects, you started creating content, just started to add value that way, and then you were then kind of incorporated into the project, right? Maybe that is the way that people do it. I think that's maybe a little bit more difficult now because there are more and more and more people trying to get into the industry, but then there are more and more and more projects to help. So maybe that still works. But I'd love to understand from you, what steps would you go to? What steps would you take to get your job, your next role? Like, what would you do?
Yeah, I think if you're just starting out and you don't have a track record, it's a lot. It's harder, of course, because you can't point to success as much. But if you do have any sort of success, you definitely want to make sure that it's something. If you've created impact in another organization or something, even if it's not in crypto, you want to be able to show it. You want to be able to make it easy for people to show. I will say so. I do recommend find the communities that you're passionate about and start creating value there. I do think that that's a great way in because then you're going to at least be noticed by or interact with a team member there. Like we thrive as advocates who go out and help us like promote our projects and help us even promote our Twitter account. But then also they're out there referring builders to us. So become an advocate in, or I don't know, ambassador or whatever for the ecosystems that you like, and at least you'll be interacting with the team there. And so if you can show value, then you're just one step closer to being able to get a full-time gig there. I also would say, like, Jack, you're exactly right. There's like a lot more people now, but the caliber is not good. I can't tell you how many people have reached out to me directly and said, I'm a writer. I'd love to write for Thrive. And so I'll send that. This is what I'll tell them. I'll say, send me a piece of writing that blows me away. And then what they send me, they take a shot. I answer. Like, who answers cold messages? I do. They take a shot. And what they do is they send me the same, like, very lukewarm blog post about a token or whatever, using the same words that everybody else uses. There's no zhuzh to it. There's no nothing about it moves. It's just very generic. And I'm like, you took your shot. You got an answer. And you didn't have anything to back it up. So if you have a skill set and you're really good at something, you will absolutely stand out. Absolutely. Another thing too is I interviewed, I've had some of the funniest interviews in Web3. It's like not as be professional in your interview. If you ever get an interview, be professional. It doesn't mean you have to put on a suit and tie. I think those days are kind of over in Web3. Um, Although some people do and they stand out when they do, if they've got a jacket, like and a tie on, like it makes you remember who they are. of course. So if they're great, you're going to remember them. But be professional. I did an interview with a guy like he was walking through the streets of wherever his city was, and I couldn't hear a damn thing. And like there's noise everywhere. I'm like, what are we doing? I'm like, why are like what, do you want this damn job?
Yeah,
I've found that the caliber is not your competition. If you're good and competent, not that high. So stand out, being super competent, being professional, go the extra mile. If you're given a shot, take a great shot, become an advocate. I think those are the ways in. Just get noticed and do something great, and you'll find your way. Yeah, I think it's a lot easier to stand out now for sure.
I like that. Cool. Taking an interview whilst walking through the
It's
streets with
crazy.
traffic around you is a fairly rogue choice of interview
What are we doing?
location for me.
It's like I can't hear anything you're saying. I ended it early. I was like, listen, just send me a thing and whatever. I ended it early because I'm like, and I mean, I don't try to be that guy. Like I try to be very kind, and compassionate to people. And I know interviews are tough, and I try to have empathy, but at the same time, it's like you're wasting my like. This is a real job, and like, why are you wasting my time with this journey through wherever you live?
That's it, right? Because
Should I meet the
because that's
family? I
the
mean, I don't know.
well, that's the chance for someone to make an impression, right? Like if you've got an interview, you have the opportunity to actually interview for something.
Yeah.
Make the most of that opportunity. Do your research, do your preparation, really
Yeah.
research into who you're meeting,
Yep.
the company, what they do, what the job entails, your goals, your motivations, like even the setup, what you're wearing is. Do your headphones work properly? Do you have enough
Yep.
charge? All this kind of stuff. Uh, People just forget. I think maybe it's the pressure of interviews or something like that. Maybe people get nervous and yeah, stuff goes out the
Yeah.
window and they just kind of concentrate on one thing, just overthinking the interview and that kind of stuff. But I think the preparation is key for me. It makes the interview go way
Absolutely.
smoother.
Still, if I were to interview, and last I was interviewing was about a year ago before Thrive, I the only and same thing with being on air. Like I used to be afraid of being on air or speaking in public, but that's a pretty normal fear as people speaking in public. But I had to do it, and the only way I got at least kind of okay at it is because I practiced, I rehearsed, I knew the questions in my head beforehand, I rehearsed my answers. Same thing with an interview. You're exactly right. That's great advice. Know who you're talking to because you want to make connection with them. You have to like it, and by knowing something about them, you can make connection. That's how you'll stand out. Knowing about the company, what the company does. That's another interview question I always ask: what do you know about Thrive? And a lot of times I just don't know anything about it, which is fine. It's not like it's not a deal breaker, but if you do know it, you're going to stand out. And yeah, if you know something about me, you're going to stand out. And yeah, rehearse the questions. No, think about like what are the typical things that people are going to ask you so that and talk whatever you're in the shower, you're taking a walk, go through the answers in your head so that you're prepared before you ever get there. Absolutely, preparation is key. I would be crappy in an interview or on air if I didn't prepare for it. It's just
Yeah.
the way that goes. So people are more natural than I am, and they can crush it off the cuff. But for most of us, just prepare. That great advice on that, Jack.
Yeah, I think you tend to find that certain people are very good at interviews, and regardless of whatever job they interview for, they'll always make it to the final stages. I don't know if it's the preparation, the communication style, the way that they're able to answer questions. But it's definitely an art to interviewing, and I feel like
Mhm.
even if you're good at interviewing but not that good at the job, you can still make
Can
it through the interview just with your communication style, right? Um,
yeah.
but
Yeah. People want to hire who they like to a certain extent. Like that's kind of human nature. So you do have to be if you're likable, it definitely I try as I interview people, I try to guard against that. Like, oh, I like this person, but wait a minute, like this is a mind game. I also have to hire for the position, but you got to like them because it also has to feel like a cultural fit for your organization too. So you do have to keep that in mind. Do I want to work with this person? They could be a killer at something. I just interviewed someone recently, killer, absolute, had like great credentials, but I was like, I don't like this, like they're very, they're very, they bragged a lot
Okay.
about their success. And I was like, this is just kind of a turnoff. It's like, yeah, I know. I read your CV. Like, talk to me like you're a human. Tell me about you.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, who you like, you being likable certainly opens the door because people are like, we want a good, and especially in Web3. I mean, we're more professional now than we were 7 or 8 years ago, but it still needs to be a good cultural fit. Still a little
Ish,
bit more.
ish, I would say. um, but just on that around being likable and kind of showing that side to you. I actually think if you're looking for a role, and if I was looking for a position again, I think personal brand online is key to finding a new role.
Totally.
I know a lot of people don't like LinkedIn. A lot of people in Web3 especially don't like to be on LinkedIn, don't like to use LinkedIn, sorry, but there is at the moment, there is no more powerful tool for showing your job history than LinkedIn.
It's
Unfortunately, it
true.
just doesn't exist yet. Maybe it will do, and maybe we'll get a decentralized version. Fingers crossed, because LinkedIn have an absolute monopoly, so us recruiters have no
Yeah,
choice really.
that's right.
But yeah, growing a personal brand, you don't have to have tons of connections, tons of followers, anything like this, but just putting stuff out there, your thoughts, showing people the way that you think and what you think about the industry, like developing opinions on things and posting them is super key. Because as soon as you start applying for these roles, if you're reaching out to projects directly, you found your problem, you really want to get involved in it, and then they go over to your pages, and then you're not even writing about it or talking about it, or are you that interested in it? Probably not. You're just saying it to get in, right? So whether it's Twitter, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's Medium, whether it's YouTube, I know someone who was on the podcast. I think he was like my second or third guest. Got a job as a VP of engineering at a very, very large Web3 project because he was posting videos on YouTube, like how to videos about all sorts of different things. And the founders went, "Love your content. Do you want to come and run our engineering
Yep.
teams?" That's how
Yep.
powerful it can be. Not saying that's going to happen all the time, but having that personal brand is key to finding a role in Web3, I think.
Absolutely. And at the very least, they're going to look. Like, if I'm interviewing someone, I'm going to look and see what's on the Twitter account, what's on the LinkedIn. Of course, it adds legitimacy. And there have been red flags. Like, I've seen stuff on Twitter where I'm like, this wouldn't be a cultural fit here. Like, this doesn't make sense. So yeah, it matters for sure. But that's a good thing too, because just because it's not a cultural fit for Thrive, it might be a cultural fit for some other project. So,
Yeah.
whoever you are, developing that personal brand, I think yeah, that's great advice. But yeah, it's everything's out there now, so we all it's sometimes it's a bit easier now to find things on people, as you all know. So
Yeah.
um yeah, being aware of that.
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes good, sometimes bad
Sometimes good,
in that
sometimes bad.
regard, right? You can't quite remain as private as maybe you could
No.
10, 15, 20 years ago. Um,
Nope.
but so if someone is, say they're already here, they're working a role, um, they've been in the industry for a little while, they've got some experience. How do you set yourself up for success and make sure you're going to have a successful career? Like, is there a way to make yourself indispensable? Like,
Hmm.
what's your thoughts on that?
My CEO said, Daniel Jacobs, who founded Thrive, um, he says the most valuable people are those that can automate themselves out of a job. And I understand his reasoning, because if you can figure out a way to do your thing and automate it and make it impactful and automate it, you're the type of person that can solve any problem. And a lot of times, startups, that's what it requires. Like, most projects in crypto are, even if they've been around a while, are still kind of startups. Like, they really are. Again, 315 projects that are revenue positive. So if you're, so most of us are still startups. By the way, Thrive is revenue positive. So we're not on chain, or we would be, we would be on in that list, which is great. But but I like that. I really like that angle from him. It's like, if you are somebody who can look at a problem, solve that problem, and put it away so that it's never a problem again, you are absolutely valuable for any startup, for any ecosystem. I do think like you have to choose one of two trajectories. You're either a expert at one thing, like you are the I don't know the best, but you're such a great writer or you're such a great video producer, you're such a great talk, whatever it is. You're either
Mhm.
that and you can be super valuable in an organization because then they know they can just apply you to that thing and like it's great. You're a great salesperson. You're a great onboarder of new projects. Great. You're on the sales side, crush it. That's not my path. Like I'm not an expert in anything. I'm more of a generalist, but I can fit into a number of different roles if necessary. Like I know enough where if it was sort of on the fulfillment side where I was on the ecosystem side, I am helping to shepherd projects through their milestones and talk with the boards or whatever. I'd feel comfortable doing that. I could do that. I'm good enough to do that. Or if content or on the sales, talking to people, onboarding projects. So it's a little different for me. I chose the path of generalist, but that can be powerful if you're a generalist and you can solve problems. Then you're valuable. So I think that's sort of what you need to choose. Like you're either a virtuoso instrumentalist and you're an amazing thing at that, or you just pick up a bunch of skills and you're valuable kind of wherever you get plugged in. To in the org that you go to.
Yeah, that's good advice. Really good. I think when you go down the generalist route and you can solve a bunch of different problems, um, that does make it quite tricky to find the right opportunity, right?
It's a hard
Because
part.
then when you're applying for things, or say
Yep,
if you're going speaking to people and they go, "Well, what do you do? I've got this role," then you go, "I can do that role, but I can also do all of this other stuff." Sometimes that might be quite difficult. Maybe to I don't know if you've experienced
absolutely.
that, but maybe quite difficult to apply for certain jobs that you see kicking around, or people might approach you for things, and you're like, kind of, but I don't want to do other stuff as well. And yeah, I can imagine it's a bit difficult.
It can be. Yeah, a lot of times I think is what happens is as you go further and further into your career, you tend to fit into a role that is some of your skills, but not all of them. Not a role where you can use all of them. Or you'll get the job because of a certain skill set that you have, a couple skill sets that you have. But then when you're there, you can a lot of startups, you got to be very entrepreneurial and things come up and you're just like, oh, I know I can go and own that and solve that. And then you're valuable for the company that you're in. But a lot of times getting it, it's based on a couple things. When I was interviewed for Thrive, um, Daniel, Jacobs, the CEO, said, because he'd known that I'd done, we were connected through a friend. And they'd never really had much marketing before. As I mentioned, we were marketing our partnerships, but not the brand itself. I wasn't the first marketing hire, but one of but the others were kind of short lived and whatever. But he said he knew about my content stuff because of I think because of Gitcoin and seeing he saw that campaign happen. And so he's like, what I'd really like to see is your range. And I loved that because then I sent him my album, like my music albums. I sent him my crazy video stuff, animated video stuff. I sent him my writing samples. I sent him my podcasts, like all like I could really just say, here's kind of the whole thing. And for him, it was like, oh no, this guy's can do a lot of you have a ton of range. You can do a ton of different things. So I'm sure you can fit in here, which was great for me. You don't always have that opportunity. So sometimes I do think you're gonna get the job because of a narrower skill set. But once you're there, you'll have value to the to the community. You'll have value to the org by showcasing all your general stuff. So yeah,
Yeah, I think
harder to
that
get in that way. But yeah,
for sure. I think that flexibility is then the thing that makes you indispensable, right? You can then work across tons of different parts of the business. You're adding value in all sorts of different areas, and then that can add a lot of longevity to the roles that you're in, for sure.
it is harder for like your LinkedIn profile because some of the things maybe you're most proud of don't aren't in that role. I do like I maintain a marketing firm, which is just so if you looked at my LinkedIn, you'd see that's a place where I can kind of showcase the range a bit more that goes beyond the title. So if I am interviewing whatever, I can showcase that and say, hey, listen, my marketing firm has different projects that we've worked on. We've done some like huge video work and whatever, and big campaigns here that you can see. And so it does make it a little bit easier to like um, to fit in, even if the role name that I've had in the past doesn't quite showcase some of the range, you know.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Um, well, Matt, over the last hour and 15, hour and 20, you've shared some brilliant advice and yeah, give us a real good look into Thrive. Um, one question I always like to ask to wrap things up, knowing what you know now about leadership, about content, about marketing, about Web3, blockchain, careers in general, what advice would you have for your younger self if you could go back to the start of your career?
I think part of it would be don't procrastinate on picking up the skills that you need to pick up. I think that like I was. It's funny because I think as a kid I was naturally very disorganized, but then in college I realized I had to start to organize. Like I'm the type of kid with homework crumpled up on the bottom of my bag. They don't do that anymore because people are on computers, but homework crumpled up at the bottom of my school bag as a kid, whatever. Like half-eaten apples. Like I was a mess. My rooms were a mess. Anyway, just kind of the ADD brain, you're like a lot of different things, and then it's hard to whatever. So, but that lends itself to procrastination too, unless you're super into something. And I think I just waited too long to upskill myself. And I wish that I had some of the skills that I had now a decade ago or 15 years ago, because I would just feel like I would be further along in my abilities. So don't procrastinate. Love to learn. That's the thing. It's all about learning. It's like, what are you interested in, and what can help you achieve the thing that you want to achieve, and just get in there and learn. We have the tools now that make it so much easier to. I mentioned AI, and of course we have YouTube and all that stuff to do it. But just don't procrastinate on the upskill. Um, and just be very clear about the outcome that you're looking for in your career. A lot of times, if especially if you're just starting out, you're like, I just need something that's gonna pay the bills and all that stuff, which is great. Do that, but then have a long-term vision about what you know, that stuff's going to go really fast, and you'll be 20 years into your career, and make sure you're visualizing exactly where you want to be, so you end up there. And then by visualizing where you want to be, you can say, okay, what are the skills I need to get there? What are the steps I need to get there? What type of roles do I need to have in order to get there? If you want to run a marketing department sometime, you want to be head of marketing or CMO at a company. Okay, what's the skill set that you need to know? Spreadsheets are your friend if you want to be there. Um, but what is the career arc, the career goal that will get the arc that will get you to the role that you want, and acquire the skills necessary to get there, and just always be learning. So I think it was a procrastination for me that was the thing that I would go back and change. Like learn faster, learn more stuff faster to achieve my goals. But other than that, I do think like the method of how I found it works. Get into a community that you love and create value. I think that still works. And so I'm glad that I'm glad that I did that at least. But yeah, I guess that would be what I would tell my younger stuff. Get off your butt and just go learn some stuff.
Love it, love it. Well, Matt, it was great to have a conversation today.
It's Jack.
Thank you very much for taking the time. You said
Thank
some
you.
really useful advice. Obviously, talked to us through Thrive in your journey. Shared some useful advice as well for people looking to break into the space and get that first role and build a career for themselves. If people listening want to find out any more information, either about you or about Thrive, I'm guessing Twitter or LinkedIn are the best places to go and have a look.
Yeah, Twitter for sure, at Thrive Protocol. You can find me on Twitter too, at Matthew Carano. It's just my full name. But yeah, reach out to me. You can DM if you're a project in crypto, you're looking for funding, reach out to me. Happy to connect with you there. But definitely follow at Thrive Protocol. You can get a sense of what we're doing just by following that account. Yeah, I'd say that's the best way.
Amazing. Well, Matt, thank you very, very much for taking the
Thank you,
time to have
Jack.
a conversation. Really enjoyed
Yeah,
it.
me too. Been my pleasure. Thank you.
I'll speak to you soon.